You're listening to the Fintech Marketing Lab podcast. I'm Araminta from Mint Studios, a content marketing agency specialized in the fintech space. And this podcast is where we experiment, explore, and break down how fintech marketing actually works in practice. Each episode, I talk with top fintech marketers about what they're testing, what they're learning, and how they're pushing the boundaries of brand, strategy, and team building. With that, let's get into today's episode. You start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit what you do on a day-to-day basis and what your role is at Pleo.
Yeah, sure. I am Alejandro Salse. I am at the moment the head of brand and content marketing at Pleo, and I basically oversee all of our creative operations that are carried by a team of different creative professionals, from content marketeers to SEO specialists, brand designers, creative producers, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. And so, yeah, let's start with like what you do on a day-to-day basis when it comes to content marketing. Are you focusing on the strategy side of things? Are you managing writers? Like what do you do in terms of content marketing at Pleo?
So we set our content marketing team in Pleo. I will say it's a quite recent team. We set it 2 years ago. Previously, we had copywriters in the brand team more to execute on internal requests or in campaigns. But 2 years ago, we decided to focus a bit more on the long term and on the organic growth. And one of the pillars for this was content marketing. So basically, we reshaped the team a little bit. And we have a team with one content manager and 2 copywriters. And we also changed the way that we were approaching content. So we were approaching content, I will say, in a very tactical way, it was very based on requests or jumping on the last trend or something like that. It was not very strategic. So what we did was start by understanding what were our main narratives as a company and how we could translate those narratives into different topics or themes. And then after that, we created a calendar that we update every quarter. And then basically our daily and my daily job is to oversee the development and the execution of the assets that are included in that calendar, that sometimes are directly part of our strategy and the way that we want to represent the voice of the company, and in other occasions are part of bigger campaigns or demand generation efforts.
Okay. And so how, before we get into like the strategy, and I want to learn more about the narratives and how you created that or decided on those topics, how would you say the content, what is the role the content plays in the wider Pleo marketing strategy?
It's a very good question, because it's the same that we were asking ourselves a couple of years ago. I remember having plenty of conversations with our CMO, and he had a very ambitious way of putting it. And he was like, I want a centralized content strategy that is truly central, in the sense of not only is a way of structuring our executional efforts, but it's also a way of inspiring other teams and achieving natural consistency. So at the end of the day, Pleo is a company of around 900 people with a considerable marketing team. It's more than 50 people, and we do a lot of things. We execute a lot of plans because we have very ambitious targets. But it's true that all these individuals, all these teams, and all this execution can also create the phenomenon of having a marketing that is very disjointed. Mm-hmm. Maybe your blog, you are talking about something, but then in your events, you are talking about something different, and then your PR activity is also something different. And that ends creating this external perspective of this company really doesn't know what they are or what they want to do. So we wanted again, at the very strategic level, we wanted the content strategy to be that that pillar that is central, that can provide a direction to any single person, not only in the marketing team, but in the organization about, hey, this is what is important for us. These are the themes and the topics and the areas that we want to be known for, and we want to have an opinion in the industry. And we should all push this in our tactics. If you're organizing an event because you're part of the field marketing team and you are creating the talk drop, you have inspiration here. And also, hopefully, you're going to have a lot of content that is already created that you can use. So it's also a natural way of finding not only alignment, but also synergies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it sounds like content. I really like what you said there, like inspire the rest of, what do you mean by that? Inspire the rest of the team?
So I think that every content team is kind of a hybrid team. It's both strategic and executional. The strategic in the sense of they are responsible for setting the main themes for the organization, the main priorities when it comes to express ourselves and create content and putting it out there, right? And then executional, when it's also related to the fact that at the end of the day, content teams, well, it really depends on the organization, but as a minimum, they own a very particular skill set, which is copywriting, right? The ability to express ideas through words and to own the tone of voice on the company. So we also support, in our case, the rest of the organization when they need something that involves content. Could be from an email nurture flow, could be from a talk track for an event that where, I don't know, someone from our C-suite is participating, could be from the slide deck or the script for a webinar. So we help other teams with that. But the notion of inspiration, I think, is a split between these two strategic and executional areas, in the sense of we try to be the compass of the marketing team, in the sense of if you are trying, at the end of the day, pretty much any marketing activity requires a dose of creativity. It is what it is. And also it requires that you understand the context in which you are playing, we can say. So what we do through our content strategy and our calendars is to set that, okay, we are this company, this is what is important for us, at least this year and this quarter. We are developing all these topics through all these different content pieces for all these different stages of the funnel. And if you are looking for inspiration when it comes to the next marketing campaign that you are organizing at the demand generation level or the field marketing level or even paid performance, everything you need should be in our content strategy. It's what is setting the direction on what to communicate, how to communicate it, when, and to who. That's basically what should be contained in our content strategy.
So organized. That's great. And because this is interesting, because one of the complaints that I hear from other content marketing teams or marketing teams in general is that often marketers are kind of order takers rather than strategically leading. So how, I know your CMO is really good, and probably that's a big part of it. He's really good at like making sure that content is strategic. But I'm just curious, like, how do you find or try and maintain that balance and not let the content team just be inundated with requests and then not have any time to be strategic? So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Absolutely, and it's a complicated one, and it's an ongoing work, I will say. When I started working with the content team, now also with the brand team, as we are consolidating the two teams into one here at Pleo. This is a recurrent frustration that I saw every single time that I was talking to the different members of the team. And even like being myself, a few years ago, I was working in content as well, directly executing myself. No one wants to be someone that handles tickets. I think that you can make the most out of a creative person by enabling them with the right context and the right problems and enough time to work on those two. That is when you can make the most out of the creative brain of a person, in the sense of, okay, maybe this can be solved with this great campaign, or this can be a phenomenal claim or a great ebook if we think more on content formats. So it's a recurrent frustration from content teams and also from internal brand design teams. What we try to do is basically two things. First one is we try to get a very strict control of the team's capacity and make sure that we are the ones saying when it is enough, when we don't have more capacity to get more tickets. Because, and the tickets or the requests, they never end.
Yeah.
They never end. So you need to be, and this requires a lot of education and conversation and dialogue with the rest of the organization. You need to be very good, and also, why not say, to repeat a lot, that you need to prioritize other aspects, not only the tickets. So you have a certain capacity per week or per month or per quarter, depending on how the team operates. In our case, it's per week when it comes to the requests. That is what I will say is the first part, is just making sure that you understand the capacity of the team, if it is, or the desired capacity, if it is 30%, 40%, 50% of the time, then probably something that you can translate into hours. Then if you are assigning a particular amount of hours that ticket should take, is very basic math. And at some point, it is what it is. There is no more capacity. And then is when you can onboard external resources or agencies, and in order to amplify your capacity. But the second part that I think that is even more important and is related to the alignment and the understanding of the organization is, by the content marketing team, I mean, is if you create as much evergreen content as possible. And by evergreen content here, what I mean is content that really understands what your company wants to communicate and also really touches on the pain points of your audience that are not going to change every week. The real pain points of your audience is something that lasts for a long time. It's kind of a chronic pain. If you really understand that and you create very strong content pieces that really address those pain points and also position your company as the solution, what we have seen is that, I will say, for more than 50% of the tickets that we get, we already have a piece of content that can cover what is requested. So it happens to us that if we are proactive enough, and this is the strategic part, and we understand that, I will say, let's make a hypothetical situation here. The company is launching a new set of features that are addressing particular pain points for our persona. This is very good for our product. We understand this. We get this information from the product team. We, as content marketeers, craft the strategy on how to communicate this at all the different layers or stages of the funnel. And we start creating these assets. When eventually a demand generation person or a field marketeer or a paid performance person comes to you asking for content, you are already prepared. You can say, hey, we already have this very good landing page. We already have this infographic that we're sharing in socials. We already have this ebook that we created for customers. We have this another one that we created for prospects. And in most of the times, it's a matter of sharing an asset that is already created or adapting and tweaking things slightly. But this approach that we're calling internally evergreen content only works if the content marketers are really aligned with what the organization is doing and what the organization wants and needs to communicate. If the content marketing team is a silo that is not really in touch with the sales team, not really in touch with the product team, with the product marketing team, etc., then it's impossible. It's impossible to be proactive because you are not aware of the context.
Sorry, I froze for a second. That's a really good answer. So comprehensive. And you've opened a lot of doors in terms of topics to cover. And I think we're going to go into more detail about how you stay in touch and how you stay aligned. And I think you've kind of uncovered perhaps why content or marketing teams are so often order takers is because of the lack of alignment. And so start with that. Basically start with that in order to try and be more strategic. Right. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think that my background is in, besides marketing agencies, I started my career in journalism. And something that I learned is no matter where you are, stories never come to you. You should go to the stories and to find them. And this also applies in companies as well. This also applies for marketing teams. This also applies for, of course, there is going to be moments in which there are orders to take, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But in order to be able to add value, to bring something to the table based on the ways of thinking or the skills of a marketing team, these teams need to be proactive. And I will say that even in the case of the content marketeers, because they are doing many things, they are finding the stories, they are thinking on the best ways to communicate them, they are crafting the assets, they are also thinking on the distribution, or they are collaborating with other teams for the distribution. Then they are trying to learn from those for those pieces and the distribution and the performance, and then iterating, and then you start again. If you are not proactive, it's going to be very difficult. You were touching on the topic of the alignment, and I will say that this was the main thing that we changed or implemented when we kind of re-founded the content marketing team here at Pleo. The main pain point, besides this reactive approach that I identified, it was the lack of alignment. So when the content marketing team was trying to put a calendar together for the next month or the next quarter, they were a little bit kind of playing by ear. They were like,
Guessing.
Yeah, we should do this post. Probably this is going to work pretty well. Everything was kind of superficial, not very in-depth, because you don't have the knowledge, sometimes even about your own product. So in order to mitigate this, we created something that we call an editorial council. So we try to share this responsibility, this alignment responsibility, not only with the content team or the marketing team, but also with the rest of the organization. This editorial council is a committee composed by 8 to 10 people. Some of them are permanent members, others they can join some of the meetings or depending on the topic. But these 7, 8, 9 individuals had a pretty particular job to do here, or work to do, which was to share with the rest of the members of the committee during a monthly meeting of 2 hours or 1 hour and a half, what was in their scope. And what was in their scope covers what they are working on, but also the types of content that they are missing in order to communicate this. Also the ideas that they have, also things that they were looking forward to implement. And what we were doing as content marketeers in that meeting, we were moderating the meeting and taking all the notes. And after that, after getting all the insights from the different team members, so someone from the product organization, someone from the sales organization, someone from the user research team, someone from the, I would say, the product marketing, the PR team, even sometimes external members, such as subject matter experts, etc. And when after the meeting, what we were doing at the content marketing team is getting all these insights and trying to see patterns. Like what is happening in the industry that our PR agency is telling us, what is happening in our product, how is the product roadmap looking for the next 6 to 9 months, what is happening in the sales organization, what's the type of conversations that they are having with prospects. And then we were using that as the main input for our content calendarization. This way, we were creating kind of this natural alignment for the content calendar that eventually will allow us to have this evergreen approach, because we were making sure that every single thing that we were creating was aligned with a need that someone can have across the company. And we were not neglecting the product team or the sales team, etc. And that is so far working really, really well for us. It's a source of inspiration. It's not the only thing that we're paying attention to, of course, but it's a great input, and it's helping for alignment a lot.
That's really cool. Yeah. So you meet once a month. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And how do you moderate that meeting so it's not like a little bit chaotic and you can try and get the most out of it? I'm always curious about that.
So sometimes you want chaos.
Oh,
Sometimes you want a bit of chaos. You want conversation, because when conversation is also when there is conversation is also when people is thinking, and when people is exchanging thoughts. And it happened to us during that meeting in many cases that even 2 members of the committee of the council were discovering that their work was so related, and there were some lots of positive overlaps and synergies that they could use. But what we do in order to prevent that it's only chaos is we try, and we're very grateful for all the to all the members of the organization that have been part of the council. We ask for a little bit of homework. So we send some guidelines in the sense of, okay, you have 5 to 10 minutes to prepare a short presentation or to share a few ideas about what's in your scope right now, what's the type of content that you would like to see. Share a couple of examples of something that you have thought that this is very cool, we should have been doing this, or we should be including this in our content. So during the first half an hour of the meeting or 45 minutes is people just presenting basically what's in their scope and what's in their minds. And this, in most of the occasions, naturally triggers conversation. Someone asks a question, then suddenly we find a topic that it's interesting for everyone in the meeting. So then is when we, as content marketers, we were like, okay, there is something here. There is something here that is relevant for the whole organization. We need to make sure that we are evaluating this to see if it has potential to become a theme or a set of topics or a content series for us. So yeah, it involves a little bit of preparation.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's a really cool idea. And so kind of it brings me to my next kind of question or topic, which is your content strategy. It sounds like this is kind of one of the inputs for your content strategy, but I imagine the content strategy is more of a quarterly or even yearly thing. So how do you think about your content strategy? How do you put it together? Is it like every year or something? And how do you decide kind of what topics to focus on, and maybe how often does that change?
So I will say that we have a very dynamic content strategy in the sense of we set the main pillars, or like say the framework of the strategy, which is the more static part, at the beginning of every year.
Okay.
And that includes usually the audience that we are addressing, the persona, if it is like just a primary persona, or there's also secondary personas. And then we set the primary channels and the secondary channels. So what are the channels that we're going to invest more? And that's kind of more the static part of it. What we try also to do as part of that framework that we review every year is to define our narratives. What we call a narrative at Pleo is those 2 to 3 broad thematic areas where we want to build a presence and we want to be perceived as an actor that is helping and educating. In short, a reference. So this could be broader areas. Sometimes I started a bit more narrow, but it could be from particular pain points of the persona. Let's say, for example, for a finance persona, it could be managing cash flow or all things related to cash flow. Maybe we want to build our presence there. Or maybe it could be more soft leadership areas, such as like the future of finance and the impact of AI. So for that, besides our editorial council, we have a lot of ongoing collaboration with the product marketing team. And we try to align with them. Okay, what's our target audience? What are the main priorities at the company level and product level looking like? And we try to use that as an input for the content strategy that we set at the beginning of the year. And then we have a more dynamic area, I will say, which is more connected to the actual execution of it and the calendarization of the content. We address that from two perspectives. One is quarterly. We try to review at the end of the quarter what has going well, what has going not so well. So the main opportunities for the next one, of course, inside of or yeah, in our narratives, operating inside of our narratives. And what we do then is that we jump to the next level under the narratives, which is the themes. So if we have a narrative that is about managing cash flow, then we try to set 3 or 4 thematic areas that we want to touch, basically, as part of that broader territory with our content. And then we jump into the channels. We have a few primary channels, such as our blog, long-form content that we develop in collaboration with our demand generation team, email marketing and social media. We always try to plan on a quarterly basis what are going to be the main content pieces or anchor assets that we are going to distribute per channel. We're going to invest the most of our capacity on those, and how are they going to be distributed by channel. And then we review this quarterly calendarization every month, more from an executional point of view, I will say, like if we have any delays, if we had some last minute requests that are critical for the business, and then we need to make room for them. We need to change some things because we're seeing that the performance is not very good. That is more like this more operational stuff is what we do at the monthly level. But we try to, when it comes to narratives and themes, we try to operate as a minimum at a quarterly level. That is because it's very difficult to create consistency and to really address a thematic area properly if you are changing your calendar every week. It's pretty much impossible. And when you are creating, it's a very disjointed experience. And then people goes to your blog, you are pretty much talking about everything, but nothing. There is no any even more, I will say, more operational tactics at the optimization level that you should do, such as internal linking, recommended articles, etc., that you cannot do because everything is chaotic. So we try to elevate a little bit our operation.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So talking a bit about now like SEO and how, because I know you a big part of, as you said, one of your channels is the blog. So can you tell us a bit about like what is the role of the blog, of SEO, and then also how that all links a little bit, or what is your relationship like with the sales team? And is like the blog one of the key lead generation channels for the sales team?
Yeah. So I will start with the SEO. Something that we did also when we refunded the content marketing team or functioned here at Pleo is that we brought the SEO team closer to them.
Mhm.
I know that for some companies, it's a matter of balancing, right? The content efforts here, like by content, some companies mean thought leadership efforts and the SEO efforts, right? But I don't think it's a matter of balancing those. I think it's a matter of connecting those and to find the synergies between them in the sense of it's true that there is this notion of SEO content.
Mm.
I don't really believe on that. I think that, of course, finding content or positioning content through search engine optimization is a best practice because it's still, let's see what happens with AI, but this is still the way that people is finding content. So basically, you should always keep in mind when you're writing for the web, the rules of the game. So you should always keep in mind, is this something that people is searching for? Who I am competing against? If I have a lot of competition in this topic or in this keyword, what I am bringing to the table when it comes to making my content better? Like I'm including more original content, I'm including more video. So there is a lot of synergies between content marketers that are more focused on branded content, on thought leadership content, and SEO specialists. And that's what we try to build. We operate with SEO strategy based on clusters, and we try to make these clusters connected to the main themes and narratives that I was describing at the beginning. So we have this natural consistency from the very top of the funnel when people is finding us because they are searching for particular areas of the finance discipline that are maybe not even related to spend management or expense management problems. We try to be present there through our SEO activities, but then we make sure that that SEO content, although I don't like that notion, is connected to our more branded content, thought leadership content, and everything is just creating this synergy. When it comes to the lead generation, I will say that this is something that we're working on at the moment. During the last years, our SEO was very focused on the top of the funnel. So on creating a lot of course, impressions, clicks, traffic. That is what we were measuring. And now, actually this year, we're moving more towards seeing the impact when it comes to the lead generation as well. And it's being a very interesting channel, and I think that now we have enough maturity to do it. If I have to select one content marketing tactic or initiative that is helping us generate leads and very qualified ones, I will definitely say that for us is the long form content. Long form content that sometimes is distributed following the SEO optimization standards through pillar pages, guides, etc., but also through downloadable content that we distribute organically through paid performance, and of course also through our sales teams as well. We know that our barometers, our playbooks, our handbooks for finance professionals are very good conversation starters for our SDR and our sales organization. We are also, especially talking about the relationship with sales, we are also investing more and more on employee advocacy. So we are enabling pretty much any employee at Pleo with a very easy to use system to share pre-approved content on their social media networks as well. And this is becoming also a good distribution channel for us. It has a lot of potential that we haven't tapped yet, but we are on it.
Yeah, there was a lot there that's really interesting. I'm aware of time. Do you have an extra, like maybe until Q2?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Just so we can go cover as much as we can. So I think now would be a good time to talk a little bit about, because you just said this year you're focusing more on, seeing the influence on sales. So now we can talk a little bit about your transition to HubSpot. And I'm really curious to learn, like, is there anything that you didn't expect to find, or something that you did find that you didn't expect? Sorry. What was the most interesting, like, statistics that you found, or insights that you found? And how do you think this is going to help you now moving forward when doing the content strategy and in general, there's content marketing?
Yeah, definitely. When we were discussing previously about the word channel split, I was mentioning that the blog is one of our channels, because Pleo has been investing a lot on its blog during the last 9 years. So there's a lot of work that has been done there to create authority on the eyes of Google's, but also of the readers. We have a few high performance articles and pieces that are getting thousands of visits every day. And we wanted to leverage that as much as possible. But something that we're seeing is that when it comes to translating this performance into the business, because there is always 2 levels of performance. There is we'll say the content marketing performance, right? Like, this is more reachable in the sense for the content marketeers, in the sense of traffic, in the sense of clicks, in the sense of downloads. But then there is also this other gap when we started talking to pipeline, or about pipeline, influence, generated revenue, etc. Right? So with our transition to HubSpot, we were trying to leverage, HubSpot is also our CRM. So we were trying to leverage a lot of the commercial tracking capabilities that we could use. So we were basically uncovering a new layer of insights when it comes to how our contacts are behaving in our blog, the amount of pages that they are visiting, the type of action that they are taking in any page, and eventually how our blog is contributing to conversion, is influencing pipeline, could be new pipeline, could be growth pipeline. So this is something that now we just migrated. So we are in the process of seeing, but I am very surprised in a good way by the amount of commercial insights that now we can add to our content marketing reporting when it comes to our blog as a channel, besides, of course, keywords, traffic, time on page, etc., etc.
Are you saying that the blog is contributing a lot more to pipeline than you thought it was?
It's still soon.
Okay.
It's still soon to say that, because we don't have a lot of data, because we just migrated.
Yeah.
But even with a few days of data, it's so good to see that, for example, some bottom of the funnel articles that we were, or pieces that we were pushing this year, at the beginning of this year, because we had this strong hypothesis of we're leaning maybe too much towards top of the funnel. We needed to start talking about a little bit about us and our solution with way more detail. That I remember that that's actually the first insight that I saw, that those articles actually were contributing to signups directly. Those pages were the last thing that some contacts were seeing just before signing up to Pleo. So you could kind of prove your hypothesis, that your hypothesis is right. And unlocking this type of insights that I assume that for some companies are pretty simple, but for others that are have some disconnection between their CSM and their CRM and their analytics, to seeing this stuff, it's really, really good.
It's such a game changer. How do you think it's going to influence your content strategy moving forward? Like, how do you think now do you think, how are you going to use that as a tool now?
Definitely it's becoming part of our reporting, our monthly reporting. And I think we're in a way going to close the gap, close the circle in a way of all the inputs that we need when we are crafting a strategy, in the sense of knowing, even at the commercial level or business level, what works and what is moving the needle for us. We had ways of assessing and tracking attention and interest with our long form content, with time on page, etc. But to start having insights like, we know that after a particular number of pages, we convert more easily, or we know that we accelerate I will say, just an example, like the deals that include more than 3 content impacts are way more accelerated than the others that don't have any content impact. To have these insights is going to help us to craft the strategy, and also to, I will say, to defeat and abandon certain beliefs that any content team can have. Like I know that we all have our little addictions. Like we really like this type of content that maybe is not really having the traction that we think is having when it comes to converting, right? So I will say that in general is that, and then it's going to help us to improve our bottom of the funnel game a lot.
Yeah, that's so exciting. We should check in a year and see how things are going, because I'm very curious to hear how, now that you've got that data, how that strategy is going to change now, and how you're going to, or the topics even, maybe you discover, because I remember when we've done this with clients, like you set up the tracking, and it's sometimes the topics that you didn't really realize, or you didn't think they were getting 100 page views a month, maybe very few page views, so they were below the radar. And then you see that they've brought in some of the biggest deals, and then you're like, oh, that's interesting.
It's great that you're mentioning, because it's part of the internal conversations that we were having. I think that when you are content marketing, or I will say, or even an SEO, even if the SEO team is not part of the content marketing function of your organization, I think that something really, really important when it comes to understanding value is that you need to keep your mind really, really open to the different notions of what value is. So it could be the case, and that has happened to us, that you have killer articles in the sense of position number 1 in Google for many years, driving thousands of visits, but maybe those are very informational articles that happen at the very top of the funnel, that are really, really valuable for your content strategy, but you need to properly understand the value that those are bringing. The value that those are bringing is more related to brand awareness, is more related to maybe opening this door in the mind of your target audience, for them to, maybe they were looking for a particular piece of information, and they find it in your blog, even if they don't know who you are. But then there's also these other cases, which there is content at the bottom of the funnel that is maybe not getting the same level of attention. So also it's impossible. There's this process of filtering. There is being a kill from a different point of view, from the point of view of the business. And you know that every single person that touches that article executes an action that you want years after. So that's huge for your business and from the pipeline perspective. So I always encourage my team and the organization to think from this broad perspective of like everything is bringing value, just different types of value and in different ways. And in a way, I'm always skeptical with this like super straightforward associations, like way more traffic means more business. Well, not always. It's great to have a lot of traffic, but not always means more business. And for lots of business and content marketing teams that I know, they have amazing traffic and amazing rankings, but then that's not being translated into the business. That is what we're trying to unlock with a system like HubSpot for our blog, and eventually for all of our demand gen activities as well.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Well, it's music to my ears, as you know, because of the kind of agency that I run. So it's really exciting to see that in practice. One last topic I want to touch on before we finish is, and I'm sure anyone who knows about Pleo will have this question, which is localization, because you operate in a lot of markets and a lot of different languages. So how do you think about it now? I know we've talked about it in the past. And I'm curious what have you found works in terms of trying to localize a blog in so many different languages and different locations as well?
It's a very good question, and it's not an easy task. But I think that we have managed to find a really good setup. We have an internal localization team that serves the whole organization. And it's a great team. It's super structured. They work in a spectacular way, and they have very good SLAs towards the rest of the organization. As you can imagine, being the content marketing team, we are one of their main customers or internal customers. So we try to keep a very, I would say, an ongoing dialogue with this team in order to make sure that they adapt to our needs. And they have done it in a fantastic way. So what we did from our perspective is that we also switch our approach to content. And although Pleo's main language is English, that's the UK is our main market, and also the language of the organization is English. We don't create content only in English. All the content that we create is meant to be translated. Even our content style guide has dedicated sections to educate content producers on how to create content that is, let's say, translation friendly. So what we try is that once the English piece is ready, we submit that to localization. And in a matter of just 2 to 3 days, depends on the asset and the length, is ready in all the languages. Usually for our main markets that are 7. And then what we have is the localization teams not only does the localization, but not only does the translation, also does the localization. So they have local experts that have been with Pleo for quite some time in most of the cases. So they understand our themes, our narratives, they understand the product, etc. And they do also the quality review of the content to make sure that it makes sense in the local language, also from a cultural point of view. So yeah, I would say it's a quite complex process, but executed in a very straightforward way. And for us, it works.
And it works really well. That's great. Yeah, I can imagine it being quite complicated. Does the localization team also, like, for example, if you're doing an SEO article, would they also pick the keyword, or would you pick the keyword and they translate it?
It's a very good point. The SEO strategy that is part of the content marketing strategy runs in a bit of a different way.
Okay.
So we don't translate, we don't localize, because what you were mentioning, the keywords sometimes also from the point of view of the performance of the keyword is not the same across different markets. So what we have is a unified cluster approach. So if we know that we want to win the invoices or invoice management cluster. We set that as the direction, but then we try to identify the main queries and keywords per market that sometimes are similar, sometimes are translations, other times are completely different. Then we develop, let's say, individual content pieces in the local languages. Those are not executed by the internal content marketing team at Pleo. Those are executed by a network of agencies that we have in Europe.
Got it. Okay, nice. So my last question is, what is the piece of content that you are proudest of that you've done at Pleo or helped do?
We and I would like to emphasize the we, because it's the product of the work of many teams, not only the content specialists, also the brand designers, videographers. We have a couple of things that I am particularly proud of. One is our recurrent, I would say it's our recurrent format called the CFO Playbook. That we execute now, I think, and now we're heading towards the 3rd edition. And it's a playbook that we publish at the beginning of every year. It's more in the direction of readiness, insights, and this helpful content for finance professionals. I think it quickly became a reference in the industry. We have this very I think it's a great story, which like we had customers that are even printing it and sending us pictures of the playbook printed version in their offices. It's unique content. It's created out of ad hoc surveys that we put together in collaboration also with our PR team. So it's a content piece that we leverage through so many channels, through our PR activity, through our demand generation, our website, our social media channels, and also that we repurpose and reuse during approximately 6 months. So it's also a phenomenal example of content mileage. And I think it's great, and to see it in a matter of a couple of years to become a reference on the playbook, of the playbooks for our ICP is great. And then I will say that there's another campaign that we did a few months ago called The New Way of Finance. There was our first, I will say, our first experience on video series. So we created a video series, kind of masterclass style, leveraging our customers, but not necessarily talking about Pleo, but more with a thought leadership angle on the challenges and the pains and how they were overcoming those in their daily routines or on a daily basis. And it was content with so much quality also. Like, we have fantastic videographers inside. Took a lot of work, but it's like 10 minutes episodes, full of insights, great logos, great professionals, phenomenal production. And again, another great example of content repurposing. Out of the insights, we created an ebook, then we created campaigns in socials, etc. And we are still running it to this day. So yeah, it's those two I think are great examples of things that the content marketing team at Pleo put together during the last 2 years that are really good.
Yeah, the CFO playbook is like promoted across LinkedIn. I know every time you do it, everyone sees it, and it's really, I think, what you said, a very good example of like a long form piece of content that's doing a really good job for Pleo. So yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much, Alex. This was super comprehensive. I know that we only touched the surface, to be honest. There's so much more, but time is limited, so we do what we can.
1, 2, 3, 4. Thanks for listening. You can find show notes and information about guests at www.mintcopywritingstudios.com/podcast. And finally, huge thanks to Orama.tv for producing this podcast. Thanks for listening, and see you at the next episode.